So we talk about finding inspiration, but what do you do when you have no shortage of inspiration and zero clarity about what to do with that inspiration? This is a topic I've talked about before. This is kind of why I started my channel, because I was really struggling with that experience of feeling like I was inspired by so many different things, so many different artists and techniques and possibilities, and it was just too much. And I didn't feel a sense of like strong direction in my own art journey, in my own career, all of that. So over the past several months, I think I've been making videos since like February or something. I really have found a strong sense of direction and clarity with regard to like where I want to take my art. But I've also found that you really need to remind yourself of it. And sometimes you need to re-establish it and look for it again, because it's not just going to be something that's always fixed. Like, it's always changing. And so recently I found myself in that same spot where I was like, it's happening again. Like, I feel like my sense of direction is just clouded. I feel super inspired, but almost like too inspired and overwhelmed. And like, instead of making me want to paint, the things that inspire me are making me want to do the exact opposite, because it's just overwhelming. And if I don't know what to make, then I'd rather just make nothing. Anyway, so I've been dealing with that and thought this would be a good time to just like do a reset, which is what I end up talking about later in the video. I was experimenting and doing like a fun little painting session, and it kind of occurred to me that I needed to do that. So that's what this video is. It's me taking you along with me, I guess, in that process, and showing you how I went about clarifying my inspiration, and yeah, just kind of walking you through how I did that. So now, after having spent some time like really thinking about where I want to take my art, what's important to me, what is the most inspiring to me, I feel really good, and I am very excited about the piece that I'm working on. So I'll show you that at the end of the video. I have my sketchbook here, and I'll show you my little thumbnail for the next piece I'm going to be working on. I would love to hear from you guys. Is this something that you relate to? Like, and if so, what do you do? Like, what are your methods for staying on track and not becoming too overwhelmed by like too many inputs? How do you turn down almost those inspiring inputs and just like listen to what really matters? I'd be curious, because I'm sure there's so many ways to go about it. This is just what I did, and I think it worked pretty well. So it is Wednesday, and Wednesday is like my fun day. So I try to be a bit more playful. If I'm working on my art, I try to like go off the beaten path and just like work on something totally random to sort of get inspired again. And I went ahead and pulled out my gel print pad. I can't think what it's called right now. You know, the jelly thing, the thing for mono printing. So I went ahead and pulled that out because it's been many months since I have done any mono printing, and I've really been missing it. So I did this quick mono print based on reference from this book. I was looking at this painting, and I focused in on these two dudes, not the one in the middle, the one on either side, and just did a quick little drawing of that on a completely painted block. And the print itself was really kind of like, I thought it was beautiful. I always think prints are very beautiful. Like the detail that comes up is really stunning. But there was not a lot of, you couldn't really tell what you were looking at, I guess. So I knew like, I gotta build on top of this if this is gonna become anything. So I decided to go in with some color, and I really like how it turned out. It's definitely, sorry, it's very reflective right now. It's still quite wet. It's inspiring me. I think that like working like that and just doing something completely random is very helpful for me, because even though like this in and of itself, like it's not really a finished piece, there's a lot about it that's a little bit wonky. Like particularly this area, I almost regret covering over the natural texture, but then I did and it was too late. Then it was too dark. I went over it with this lighter color, but anyway, it doesn't matter because that's not the point of this. The point is it's very inspiring to just do something like that, and it gives you ideas. It gets your mind like open to more possibilities. And in doing this exercise, I realized that what I'm really in need of right now is just to reset my vision for my work, I guess, because I've been feeling quite stale. I think a few months back, I had a lot of clarity and I knew the type of work that I wanted to be making. I knew how to make that work. Like I had practical steps. You know, I was doing a lot of color studies. I had a lot of particular paintings that I wanted to work on, and that felt good. It felt like whenever I was able to, I could just sit down and paint, or stand up and paint, you know, just get to it and not have to ask myself like, well, what do I feel like making? And I don't really feel like making anything, all of that. And I think it's normal to go from having clarity of vision to like that kind of growing stale or fuzzy. And you just need to refocus every once in a while. I think for me, it's like every few months is when I feel kind of detached from my art practice, from my vision for like what I want it to look like. And so my idea for getting that back is to sit down and look through art books, maybe Pinterest. I hesitate with Pinterest because I have a tendency to just kind of like get caught up in the like whatever's trendy. I really like it, and then I get caught in that whole world of like, do I like this because it's trendy right now, or do I actually really like it, and all the things. Like I don't know, Pinterest is complicated. Social media is so complicated, and that's why I like to stick with books when I can. I do have a pretty good collection of art books from artists that I really admire and want to emulate. So I'm going to pull out a stack of books that I think are artists that I not only really like and appreciate their work, but like their work makes me want to paint, and their subject matter makes me want to paint. Like I want it to be artists who inspire me to create. And then I'm gonna like collect images and maybe make a mood board. I don't know, like, yeah, maybe I'll make a mood board. There was this idea, I think it was a Chelsea Lang video that I watched like a couple years ago even. I think she did like a masterclass on like finding your style. And what was really cool is she encouraged artists to make like a vision board. I don't know if you would call it that, but basically a collection of images from other artists that you're like, okay, this is like what I want my work to be like. Not in the sense that you're copying them or would want to be exactly like that, but that they all inspire you in some way. And to return to that consistently whenever you're feeling off track or like you no longer know exactly what style you're going for, when you feel like kind of pulled in different directions. And that's totally me. So I remember doing that back in the day, and I had because I had a Pinterest board with all the art that inspired me, and it just made me like want to run in a million different directions. And then I made a separate board with all the art that specifically inspired me very deeply to create, not like to create something that also feels authentically me, if that makes sense. I think there's such a difference. Like sometimes I'll see artwork that is so far off base from anything I do, and I'll still get this itch to like, oh, that looks so fun, or that's so inspiring, I want to do that. But it's really like a surface level, shallow itch. But then there's that art that just like gets under your skin if you know that that's like the type of art you want to make. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to seek inspiration this evening. I'm gonna pull out a bunch of books, and then yeah, I'll let you know my next step, because I do want to like to really do something with it. I don't want to just look through books, but I want to end up with something concrete that will help me move forward and feel a lot more clarity. So I'll keep you updated on what that looks like, but that's the plan. Okay, so it is a couple days later. I ended up spending some time looking through all the art books that I thought were really going to inspire me, and oh my gosh, I found so much more material for inspiration than I even expected to. So I just took my time with it. I spent a few days looking through these and like really narrowing down certain images that were inspiring me more than others and asking myself why. And then I ended up printing out some of my favorites. So this is my master inspiration board. I also printed this image of Edouard Vuillet's sketchbook, just to remind myself of how I want to be sketching and how I want to be like drawing inspiration for paintings from life and from the things that I observe. So yeah, I thought it would be cool to just kind of like go over this in more detail, switch to overhead, and talk about why I chose the images I did. Because at first glance, like it can seem a little disjointed. There's certain things from each artist that I really want to take inspiration from and like embody in my own work and learn how to do, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to switch to overhead, and then I might also dig into some of the books a little bit too, because there's just so much, like way too much for me to distill into one board. I was so inspired by looking at all these books. All right, let's do it. Okay, so just to give you a closer up look at this sketchbook image, you can see how he just captures these quick little scenes of people and buildings, and I just love the way he does it. It's so spontaneous. He's not like sticking to one composition per page. Like he's really just going for it. I love that detail that you can see like a face in there. It's just so cool. Like this is how I want to be sketching. I'm so inspired by this, especially when it comes to just getting ideas for painting compositions from life. Okay, this is the master board. It's a lot of Edouard Vuillard, we all know, my favorite. So I'll start with those, I guess. This one has always been a favorite of mine ever since I've known about it. It's just, I love the wall, the back wall. It kind of reminds me of Funfetti. It's just like all those colors, they somehow work together. I love these two figures in the dark, how this one's just like a silhouetted, like very hunched over figure, and just the simplicity. So much is inspiring to me about this one. This one, I just also really appreciate the simplicity. That's a lot of things you'll notice from this board, is that I'm really wanting to lean into the simple, and I know that it's something that I struggle with and I forget. So I'm putting a lot of really simplified images on here because I'm always needing that reminder to just like keep it simple. And this was a room painting. This is also Vuillard, and a little girl playing in a room. I really like this a lot. I just love something he does a lot is he'll have pieces of furniture or things kind of in the foreground cropped out. And it just adds such a visual interest. I know I blocked the edge of this, but you can already tell from this um, just how much more of an interesting painting this is than it would be if we just saw the bed and then it ended and there's nothing up here up close in the foreground. Another Vuillard, very simple. I love the woman's position, just the color. It's so flat and then it just gently transitions to this kind of like periwinkle blue. Yeah, big fan of that. More Vuillard over here. I love his use of pattern and again, figures that are just going about their lives. Like it's just so true to life. She's maybe working on her sewing or something, or they're just having a chat at the table. Like a lot of the times his scenes are ambiguous in a way that I think is a lot more engaging than if they were like straightforward. This one as well. I love like her gaze. You can't really see her eyes, but you can tell she's just like gazing at the viewer and you don't even really know what's going on back here. I love his boldness too with using that bright of a blue. So stunning. Okay, that might be all of the Edouard Vuillard that I put on here. Let's do this one. So this is a artist called, this is his second piece. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's Finnish, but that's the name. And I just love his still lives. These are ones that I don't actually have a book of him. This is the only one that I did go to Pinterest for because I remember being absolutely in love with his still lives and wanting to remember them and go back to them and kind of reference that because I love the compositions. They're very posed, so it's interesting that I'm attracted to the spontaneity and the like everyday life of the Vuillard paintings where nothing is posed, everything's very candid and just like how it would normally be. And then I love the contrast also of like things positioned a certain way. And I don't know, maybe this could be like a table, how it would normally be, but you're not typically like throwing your dish towel with and placing a lemon on top of it. Like everything is just seems placed, but I don't know, in a very original way. Like it's not overdone. This is another, I think, just a detail of a larger one by him. And it almost reminds me of collage a little bit. I think maybe he scratched into the surface to get these really thin white lines. I don't know if you can see that very well, but very inspired by this image right there. This is Toulouse-Lautrec, who I used to really like him and his paintings, and I'm not as big of a fan as I used to be. I mean, I still love them, but in terms of inspiration for my own work, I'm leaning away from that style, I suppose. But one thing I noticed is he also does this thing where he crops out the figures in a lot of his compositions. Like it'll be focused on one or two, and then there's figures that just get mostly cropped out. And I think that's really visually interesting. It makes you feel like you're reliving a scene that actually happened. Okay, Van Gogh. I love this painting just because it encompasses that spontaneity and that expressive feeling. I'm just in love with the idea of how he painted. Like, I love that he painted so often and was always desperately trying to capture the world around him and his life. I think it's just extremely inspiring. Okay, this one, Neo Rauch, German painter. I know this seems kind of out of place because he does like these surrealist paintings, but I always go back to this book of him because I just love the way that he playfully creates his compositions, and they really do remind me of collage. Quite often it's like he places these figures in a background that's not really real, or he's just like adding all these crazy objects in, the helicopter, all this kind of thing. I just find that really inspiring in terms of like the freedom to create whatever composition that you want and yeah, to just play around with that. I also love his use of multiple figures. I'm always drawn to paintings with usually 2 figures. As you can see, I've chosen 3 different paintings with 2 figures. I just think there's so much storytelling that happens between 2 figures. I was also looking at my Manet book and his sketches. I just love the simplicity, how there's not a single line that is superfluous in this little like comic sketch. And then this one, the movement happening over here, I just really adore that. The expressive movement in his marks. And then this portrait by him, I very much like the flatness. Like he manages to be both painterly and flat at the same time. And I don't know how he does it, but I want to paint like that, you know? And then this was just a study from the Olympia painting of his that I thought was really nice. Like often I prefer the studies and sketches, or at least I like to look at them and kind of analyze like what was going on and what was their approach to creating that simplified version of the piece. Okay, I think that was everything on here. And I might show you a few other things in books that I did not print out. Okay, the folk art book, I did not print anything out because these are less inspiring in terms of like, I want to paint like this, but more just like opening my mind to the possibilities. What was most inspiring to me in here, I think, are the objects, the sculptures. And I just cannot get enough of the objects in this book. And I had to show you guys. Like, look at these little toys, the little houses. That's Noah's Ark, the animals. The ones in color, too, are just so delicious. Look at that. I don't know what these inspire me to do, so that's why I didn't print them out. But like, I do want to make little paintings or sketches or prints of some of these statuettes. I cannot get over them. Even just like using that as inspiration for some figure sketching. They're just so interesting. I also loved this. The paintings in houses, like whether it be murals or these paintings that are like installed into above the mantle. That is really lovely. This is a trompe-l'oeil frame. Like that frame is part of the painting. Isn't that crazy? I so wish this was in color though. Look at the waves. I've never seen somebody paint waves like that. I am wanting to like paint on the walls and some of the doors in our house one day. So I think I'll revisit this book when I start on a project like that, because massive inspiration. I love this angel. What? Okay, I think there was just like one other thing I wanted to show you guys. It was these little boxes. Look at these. They're so cool. I wish every photo in here was in color. That would just make my day. Okay. Like I could look at this book all day, I swear. Okay, with Van Gogh, it's not so much that like any one painting is really inspiring to me. It's just his body of work. It's the way that he worked. Actually, this is insanely gorgeous. What the heck? Yeah, I've never been like really into Van Gogh in the past. And I think it's like starting. Like I'm starting to understand the hype, I guess. I mean, more than ever, like a lot of these are just really drawing my attention. Is that lavender? I love when you can see the paint on the surface. That's just so beautiful. Okay. Okay, this is the Neo book, and I just have to show you like how insanely cool some of these are. I mean, he's just like creating these scenes. these are the two I printed. They're so like mystifying. Look at that. And I love the looseness. It's like a combination of different styles of paintings that somehow he marries into one style. I don't even know. It's so cool. Oh, I really like this one. Okay, before I spend all day looking at books again, I'm going to tape these up to my studio wall, and then I'm going to start working on something. I'm very happy. I feel like I do have like a renewed inspiration and a stronger sense of where I'm going, like what I want to paint. All right, this is where my inspiration board is gonna live, right in front of my desk here.
Oh yeah.
Okay, opening up my sketchbook, I realized I also did a couple of other things to kind of like regain that clarity and just think through what wasn't working. One of those things being I made a list and called it what's not working and what is working. And then I just wrote down like certain things that I've been doing in my art practice that were like hindering me, that had become a problem, that were like making me feel more burdened, and then a list of things that were working, that were exciting to me, that had been going well, that I want to do more of. So that was a really helpful little exercise I did. And then this page is, I was brainstorming some little like kind of logos, I guess you would call it, for the paint club, which if you watch my last video, I threw out the idea of doing a paint club. It's going to be an online community where we give each other feedback, like we share what we're working on, whether it be like your paintings, your sketches, photography, like whatever your medium, but it's called Paint Club. And we give each other feedback, encouragement. It kind of like, my idea behind it is I really want some external accountability to be painting more consistently, to kind of have a place to show up and give account for what I've been doing. I think that could be really helpful for so many people who kind of just have their own internal motivation and they don't have anyone else to show up for. That can be super hard when you're lacking motivation. So, Paint Club, I will launch it 2 weeks from today because there's still a few things that I'm tinkering with on Patreon. I've never used it before. So I just want to make sure like it's good to go. And then when I post my next video, I will announce also that Paint Club is open and you guys can start signing up. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'm going to come up with like a little logo for the photo. And then I did what inspires me and did a few like sketches. I did it kind of in list form. So yeah, this was just a little exercise I did wanting to list out like whatever came into my mind at that moment based on the books I was looking at and just things I was thinking about, what inspires me. And what I am working on next, which I'm very excited about, is this painting. And I'll put a clip in here of this scene in my house. And I've been wanting to paint it for a while. But it's the scene in my bathroom. Like if you're looking through the door into the bathroom, you can see yourself in the mirror and it's kind of like naturally framed. So here's a photo that I took. And I'm going to be using this, but I'm going to tinker with it a little bit. So it's not exactly the composition that I'm going for, but I wanted to do a little study of it just to see what the colors looked like on paper and see what the composition looked like. That way I can now tinker with it and make changes knowing how I feel about this little study. So yeah, I'm gonna do probably a few versions of this. The reason why I originally got inspired to paint this scene was Ethan was in there and I was in the hallway. Our house is like goes straight back. And so if you walk in the front door, you can see, like if the bathroom door is open, you can see yourself in the bathroom mirror, which is kind of crazy because it's like really far away. And so like walking in, I could see his back and then his face in the mirror and then my own face. And I was like, that would be a cool painting. And it really reminds me of the paintings that are all very inspiring to me, which I talked to you about, involving multiple figures and like really unique framing. And I've always been interested in the concept of like mirrors as a frame and doing portraits and self-portraits in a mirror in the context of like you're looking at the mirror and the mirror frame is part of the painting as well. So anyway, that's that. This is just obviously me taking a photo, but I'm thinking of messing around with adding Ethan in there as well somehow. So we'll see what I end up doing, but I'm just really excited to like have a painting based on my life that I'm jazzed about and that I want to make, because before doing this, I was just kind of like, oh, what do I paint next? Like there's so many different things I could do, but like not one of them is really screaming out at me. This is an idea that I'm excited about and ready to explore like more in depth. Okay, I think that's everything that I wanted to share. If you're interested in Paint Club, just don't forget about it, because in 2 weeks I will be opening it up, and that'll be just a really cool little community where we can all chat about art and give each other feedback. And yeah, I think it'll be amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in 2 weeks for the next video.